I stared at my phone, reading the group chat messages that I wasn't supposed to see. Someone, probably my stepsister's assistant who still felt sorry for me, had forwarded screenshots of their private conversation. Marcus, meeting at 2 p.m. tomorrow to discuss the Phoenix acquisition. Boardroom A. Emma, should we invite Olivia? Marcus, why would we? She's not real family. Emma, true, she'd probably just embarrass us anyway. Remember that disaster with the Johnson contract? Marcus, lol, when she actually suggested we consider employee benefits, a major. I set my phone down on my desk, my real desk in my private office on the top floor of the Phoenix Group's headquarters. Outside my window, Seattle's skyline glittered in the morning sun. But I barely noticed it. I was too busy thinking about how perfectly their exclusion played into my plans. For 3 years, I'd hidden my identity as the founder and CEO of Phoenix Group, one of the fastest-growing technology companies in the country. The business media called me reclusive, mysterious, brilliant. My step-siblings called me a failure who'd never amount to anything. If only they knew. The story really began 15 years ago, when my father married Catherine Walsh, a wealthy widow with 2 picture-perfect children. I was 17, still grieving my mother's death, when I suddenly gained a stepmother who saw me as an inconvenience and 2 step-siblings who treated me like an unwanted houseguest. Marcus and Emma Walsh had everything. Trust funds, private school educations, guaranteed positions in their father's company, Walsh Technologies. I had a partial scholarship to State University and a determination to prove myself. You really should consider community college, Catherine had said during my senior year, her voice dripping with fake concern. Walsh Tech needs administrative assistance too, you know. But I had other plans. While my step-siblings partied their way through business school, I worked 3 jobs to put myself through computer science and engineering programs. While they posted photos from their European vacations, I was learning to code, developing the algorithms that would eventually become Phoenix Group's foundation. The disaster with the Johnson contract, they'd mentioned. That was 5 years ago, when I was still trying to please them, still hoping to earn a real place in the family. I'd suggested that Walsh Tech's new software should include better benefits for their clients' employees, health tracking, wellness programs, career development tools. Marcus had laughed me out of the meeting. 2 months later, I founded Phoenix Group with exactly that focus, human-centered technology that helped businesses take better care of their employees. Within a year, we'd stolen the Johnson contract from Walsh Tech. Within 3 years, we'd become their biggest competitor. And now, after careful maneuvering and strategic acquisitions, I was about to become their owner. The takeover had been months in the making. Walsh Tech was vulnerable. Their outdated practices and focus on profit over people had left them struggling in the modern market. Their stock was dropping, their clients were leaving, and their board was desperate for a solution. Enter Phoenix Group with an offer they couldn't refuse. The only condition was that the negotiations had to be handled through intermediaries. The mysterious CEO of Phoenix Group was too busy for direct meetings. My computer pinged with a calendar reminder. Walsh Tech board meeting, 2 p.m. I'd had my assistant schedule it weeks ago, knowing my step-siblings would choose that time for their private meeting. After all, everyone knew Phoenix's CEO never took afternoon meetings. I opened my desk drawer and took out an old photograph. Me at 17, standing with my father at my high school graduation. He died 2 years later in a car accident, leaving me with nothing but memories and a family that never wanted me. Catherine had taken control of his small tech consulting firm, merging it into Walsh Tech and erasing every trace of his legacy. She'd made it clear that his death meant the end of any obligation to me. I was an adult, she'd said. I needed to make my own way. So I did. I picked up my phone and called my assistant. Sarah, is everything ready for this afternoon? Yes, Ms. Harrison. The lawyers have the final paperwork prepared. The board has already approved the sale. They just need the Walsh family's signatures as majority shareholders. And they still don't know. No one knows you're Alexandra Phoenix. The media still thinks you're a reclusive male CEO in his 50s. The photos we've leaked of the real Alex Phoenix at charity events have all featured the actor we hired. I smiled, remembering how Emma had once swooned over a magazine article about the mysterious Alex Phoenix, calling him exactly the kind of powerful man this family needs to align with. Perfect. Make sure the conference room camera is working. I want to record their faces when they find out. After hanging up, I walked to my private bathroom to check my appearance. The woman in the mirror looked nothing like the awkward teenager who'd once tried so hard to fit into the Walsh family. My dark hair was perfectly styled, my suit was impeccably tailored, and my posture radiated confidence. The last piece of my disguise was a pair of designer glasses, not something I needed, but they changed my face just enough that someone who hadn't seen me in a few years might not immediately recognize me. "Ms. Harrison." Sarah's voice came through the intercom. "The Walsh siblings have arrived for their meeting. They're in boardroom A. And the camera? Live feed is running. Would you like to watch?" I sat at my desk and opened the video feed on my laptop. Marcus and Emma sat at the long conference table, looking exactly as privileged and smug as I remembered. Marcus was showing Emma something on his phone, both of them laughing. I turned up the volume. "Can you believe Olivia actually applied for a job here last month?" Marcus was saying. "As a project manager, like Phoenix Group would ever hire someone like her." Emma snickered. "Did you see her resume? State University, really? I heard she's working as a junior developer at some tiny startup." Pathetic. Actually, I had applied for that job. Through a carefully constructed fake identity, complete with an alter photo. I'd known they'd see the application. Known they'd laugh about it. Known they'd never suspect that I wasn't seeking a job at Phoenix Group. I owned it. I glanced at my watch. 1:55 p.m. Almost time. "Sarah," I said into the intercom, "please inform the Walsh siblings that the meeting will begin slightly early. And Sarah, make sure you address me as Miss Phoenix when you announce me." I stood straightening my jacket and gathering the folders I'd need. 15 years of being treated like an outsider, of being told I wasn't good enough, of watching them squander opportunities I would have treasured, it all came down to this moment. I thought about my father, about how proud he'd been when I wrote my first computer program. About how he always said success wasn't about who you knew or what advantages you had. It was about how hard you were willing to work. "Ready when you are, Ms. Phoenix," Sarah's voice came through the intercom. I took one last look in the mirror, adjusted my glasses, and picked up my folders. Time to show my step-siblings exactly what not real family could accomplish. I walked toward boardroom A, my heels clicking purposefully on the marble floor. Through the glass walls, I could see Marcus and Emma still laughing, still secure in their privileged bubble, still unaware that their world was about to change dramatically. Sarah stood ready at the door, her face professionally neutral despite knowing what was about to happen. She'd been with me since the beginning, one of the few people who knew my true identity. "Shall I announce you?" she asked quietly. I nodded, thinking of all the times they'd excluded me, dismissed me, treated me as less than them. The memory of their laughter fueled my confidence. Sarah opened the door. "Mr. and Ms. Walsh? Allow me to introduce Alexander Phoenix, CEO of Phoenix Group." I stepped into the room, watching as their expressions shifted from polite interest to confusion to dawning horror. "Hello, Marcus." "Emma." I smiled, channeling Catherine's elegant condescension. "Shall we discuss the future of Walsh Technologies?" The silence in boardroom, it lasted exactly 12 seconds. I counted them, savoring each moment as Marcus and Emma's faces cycled through shock, disbelief, and finally fear. "Olivia," Emma's voice cracked. This is some kind of joke." I set my folders on the table and took a seat at the head of the conference table, their father's old spot. "No joke, Emma. Though I must say, your earlier comments about my job application were quite amusing." Marcus found his voice, though it trembled slightly. "You can't be Alexander Phoenix. The company records, the photos in the media. All carefully managed misdirection," I said, opening the first folder. "Now shall we discuss the terms of the acquisition? I believe you're both familiar with the broad strokes. Phoenix Group purchases Walsh Technologies for $2.4 billion, retaining key assets while restructuring management." "Wait," Emma interrupted, her designer bracelet clinking against the table as she leaned forward. "You've been lying to everyone, pretending to be someone else." "No, I've been protecting my privacy while building one of the most successful tech companies in the country." I met her gaze steadily. "Something I learned from watching your family, appearance isn't everything. Reality is what matters." Marcus's face hardened. "Mom needs to know about this. The board needs to know." "The board already approved the sale." I cut him off. "And Catherine? She signed off on it last week. She just doesn't know who I am yet. I allowed myself a small smile, though I'm very much looking forward to that conversation. I could see the calculations happening behind their eyes, the realization that their failed stepsister had outmaneuvered them completely, that the company they'd taken for granted, the inheritance they'd assumed was secure, now belonged to someone they'd spent years mocking. "What do you want?" Emma asked finally. "Want? I already have what I want. Phoenix Group is acquiring Walsh Technologies. That's just business." I opened another folder, though there are some changes I'd like to discuss regarding current management. Marcus's face went pale. "You're firing us." "Not exactly. I'm offering you both positions that better match your capabilities." I slid papers across the table. "Marcus, you'll be transitioning to Assistant Director of Client Relations. Emma, Junior Project Coordinator. Both positions come with significant pay cuts, of course, but they do include the employee benefits package you once laughed at me for suggesting." "This is ridiculous," Emma sputtered. "We won't accept." "Then you're welcome to seek employment elsewhere," I said calmly. "Though I should mention that the non-compete clauses in your current contracts will remain in effect. And given Walsh Tech's market position, you might find job hunting challenging." Marcus slumped in his chair. "You've been planning this for years, haven't you?" "Planning? No, working hard, building something meaningful, succeeding despite your constant attempts to undermine and exclude me." "Yes." I stood up, straightening my jacket. "You have until tomorrow morning to decide. If you accept the new positions, you'll report to HR for orientation at 9 a.m. If not, security will escort you out." As I turned to leave, Emma called out, her voice desperate. "Wait. What about Mom? What are you going to do to her?" I paused at the door. Catherine made her choices 15 years ago. Now she'll live with the consequences. I glanced back at them. "Oh, and don't bother trying to warn her. She's in a board meeting right now, one where she's about to meet Alexander Phoenix for the first time." The second board meeting of the day was being held in our largest conference room. Through the glass walls, I could see Catherine sitting among the other board members, impeccably dressed as always, probably already planning how to charm the mysterious CEO of Phoenix Group. Sarah met me outside the door. "Everyone's ready, Ms. Phoenix. Would you like me to announce you?" "No," I said softly. "I think I can handle this one myself." I walked into the room, and for the second time that day, watched as recognition dawned on someone's face. Catherine's perfect composure cracked just for a moment as she realized exactly who had bought her company. "Good afternoon," I said to the room at large, but my eyes were fixed on my stepmother. "I'm Alexander Phoenix, CEO of Phoenix Group, though some of you might remember me as Olivia Harrison." The next hour was a masterclass in professional composure. I outlined Phoenix Group's plans for Walsh Technologies, the modernization of their systems, the expansion of their employee benefits, the complete restructuring of management. Catherine sat silently, her face a mask, as I systematically dismantled everything she'd built. When the meeting ended, she tried to slip out with the others, but I wasn't about to let her escape that easily. "Catherine? A moment, please." She turned back slowly, and for the first time in 15 years, I saw real fear in her eyes. "How?" she asked simply. "How did I build a multi-billion-dollar company, or how did I manage to buy yours?" I leaned against the conference table. "The answer to both is the same. I worked for it. Something you never understood. If this is about your father's company, this isn't about revenge, Catherine. It's about justice. About proving that success doesn't come from who your parents are or what last name you carry. It comes from talent, dedication, and treating people with respect." She flinched at that last part. "And now? Will you destroy everything we built?" "No, I'm going to make it better. Walsh Technologies will become a division of Phoenix Group, focusing on the employee-centered software that Marcus and Emma once mocked. Your company's legacy won't be about privilege and power. It'll be about helping people. And me?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "You'll retain your board seat, but as a minor shareholder, your voting power will be limited." I smiled. Consider it a lesson in humility. As she turned to leave, I called after her, "Oh, and Catherine, the family dinner on Sunday. I think I will attend after all." The next few weeks were interesting, to say the least. Marcus and Emma, facing the reality of their situation, accepted their new positions. They weren't happy about it, but they were learning. about hard work, about treating others with respect, about earning their place rather than expecting it. Catherine remained on the board, though she rarely spoke during meetings. Sometimes I caught her watching me with a mixture of fear and something that might have been respect. The media had a field day when my true identity was revealed. Stepdaughter's sweet revenge and Tech's mystery CEO unmasked dominated headlines for weeks. But that wasn't the story I cared about. The real story was in the changes we implemented at Walsh Technologies. Employee satisfaction scores rose. Innovation flourished. The company that had once been a symbol of corporate privilege became a model of progressive workplace culture. 1 year after the acquisition, I sat in my office reviewing the latest performance reports. Walsh Tech's profits were up 40%, largely due to the employee-centered software platforms I championed. Marcus had actually done well in his new role, once he learned to listen to clients instead of talking down to them. Emma had discovered she had a talent for project management when she actually had to work at it. Sarah knocked on my door. "Ms. Phoenix, your step-siblings are here for their quarterly review." I looked out my window at the Seattle skyline, thinking about how far we'd all come. "Send them in." Marcus and Emma entered, no longer wearing designer labels or arrogant smirks. A year of real work had changed them. "Please sit down," I said, gesturing to the chairs across from my desk. "Let's discuss your progress." As we reviewed their performance metrics and development goals, I thought about my father, about how he always said success wasn't about beating others, it was about becoming the best version of yourself. I hadn't bought Walsh Technologies for revenge. I'd bought it to prove a point, that true success comes from merit, not privilege. That the family who'd once excluded me would now work for me, learning the lessons I'd learned long ago. And maybe, just maybe, we all become better people in the process. The real victory wasn't in owning their company or making them work under me. It was in proving that the not real family member they'd dismiss had built something meaningful, something that made a difference in people's lives. That was worth more than revenge could ever be.